when the alarm stops meaning anything. The mornings used to mean something. Once, I would wake with a sense of anticipation. Not happiness, maybe not even hope, but a readiness. A willingness to meet the day like a guest arriving for dinner. To set the table, light the candle, show up with whatever I had inside me. But something changed. Now, the alarm rings, and I lay there listening to it like it's someone else's problem. It doesn't feel like a beginning anymore. It feels like a negotiation. My eyes open. I stare at the ceiling. I count the cracks, the stillness, the excuses I will soon offer myself. I live in Germany. I work in a place where I become good at smiling and saying, Alice gut, even when my chest feels like it's full of static, even when my inbox has become a measure of my worth, even when I sit through meetings and feel the slow erasure of who I was before all this. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I came here with hope, with spreadsheets and Google Maps tabs open at midnight, with language apps and dreams and the certainty that discomfort meant growth. And maybe it did, at first, but no one told me how lonely survival can be, how easy it is to become efficient and empty at the same time. The commute is a blur, a train ride with no conversation, a walk through cold air and straight faces. Everyone is polite, no one is warm, and I, too, have learned how to be polite. I show up, I answer emails, I meet expectations. I say Mahlzeit at lunch and eat silently, scrolling through a phone I don't want to look at. I'm surrounded by people, but I'm rarely with them. Sometimes I wonder if anyone sees me, not the functioning me, not the efficient one with the project tracker and the polite nods, but the one underneath, the one quietly unraveling, the one who hasn't cried in front of another human being in months because she's afraid if she starts, she might never stop. There's a word in German I once loved, Geborgenheit. It means a feeling of safety, of shelter, of being held without needing to earn it. I haven't felt it in a long time. Not in my job. Not in this apartment with its white walls and echoing silence. Not in the way I speak the second language that I'm fluent in but never feel home in. Sometimes, I wonder what it would take to quit. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just quietly stop. Stop trying. Stop performing. Stop pretending that burnout is just a passing phase. Instead of fire, I've been walking through barefoot for 2 years. But then I remember the rent, the visa, the reputation, the fear. So instead, I keep going. The days don't ask for me anymore. They don't knock gently. They don't open with light. They just arrive. And I, out of habit, get up to meet them. But inside, something is breaking. Or maybe something is awakening, because even in the numbness, I can feel it. This isn't how it's meant to be. This isn't living. And somewhere in the distance, in a version of myself I barely remember, I still believe in something softer, something quieter, something truer. I just don't know how to get back to it. Yet, the space between versions of me. There's a photo on my phone I haven't deleted, though I never look at it. It's from my first week in Germany. I'm standing in front of a yellow building with old bricks and ivy growing across the balcony. I'm smiling, but not the kind of smile you make for a camera. It's real, the kind that lives in your chest, not your mouth, the kind you feel before you pose. I don't know that person anymore. She had her hair tied back and wore a second-hand coat that smelled like hope. She thought language could build bridges. She thought working hard would be enough. She thought showing up with heart would be noticed, maybe even valued. Now I wear my hair down and tuck it behind my ears like armor. Now I use the formal version of everything: speech, email, body. Now I calculate what parts of myself are safe to share in each meeting. I have become fluent in more than German. I have become fluent in quiet self-erasure. And yet that photo stays. Because some part of me, small and persistent, still believes she's in there somewhere. Maybe buried beneath the deadlines. Maybe asleep behind the careful voice I use when someone says, "We gets," and doesn't mean it. There was a moment last week that caught me off guard. I was in a cafe near the office, waiting for my takeaway coffee. There was an older woman there, maybe in her 70s. She wore a navy coat and had kind, weather hands. The barista made a mistake. Wrong drink, wrong milk, something like that. And the woman just laughed. Not a fake, polite laugh. Not a no worries laugh to smooth things over. A real one, from the belly. And I stared at her, wondering, when was the last time I laughed like that? Not to be liked, not to diffuse tension, just because something in me was still soft enough to find joy. I don't remember. Somewhere along the way, I stopped allowing softness. It didn't feel safe. In a system where efficiency is praised and emotional honesty is filed under personal matters, softness becomes risk. So I built a version of myself that could endure, and it worked for a while. But now I'm so tired of enduring. I want to feel again, even if it hurts, even if it makes me slow, even if it means I have to rebuild everything I've been carrying, and choose differently this time. Because the truth is, I miss myself. Not the smiling photo version, but the version who could look at a morning sky and not immediately think of emails. The version who danced to music while brushing her teeth. The version who didn't keep shrinking herself to fit into conversations, cultures, offices, expectations. I want to meet her again. Not perfectly, not all at once, but soon. And maybe that starts with something small, like waking up and not apologizing for needing more, like not checking Slack before I've even opened my eyes, like sitting in a cafe and laughing, not because it's allowed, but because it's real, because maybe healing doesn't start with quitting. Maybe it starts with remembering. The secret life of Sunday afternoons. There's a specific kind of silence in Germany on Sunday afternoons. Everything is closed. No errands. No rushing. Just stillness. It's written into the culture. Ruhedag, the day of rest. And for the first few months, I hated it. The quiet felt like suffocation. I didn't know how to be alone with myself that long. Back home, Sundays were noisy. Markets, music, too much food, conversations that ran over, phones buzzing, doors opening, people dropping by without warning. Here, the world holds its breath. You're expected to be quiet, expected to slow down, expected to be. And now, oddly enough, I crave these hours. Not because they're joyful, they're not, but because they become the only time I don't have to perform. No one's asking anything of me. There's nothing to reply to. No performance reviews. No meetings in 10-minute. No calendar invites that start with quick sync and end with emotional depletion. Just this, the sound of birds, the clink of a teacup in the apartment next door, a distant church bell that feels more like a memory than a call. I've started taking walks during these hours, without purpose, without steps to count or playlists to distract me. And in those walks, something happens. I remember what it felt like to want something, to look forward, to dream without shame. There's a bench near a small pond at the edge of the park. I sit there sometimes and try to speak to a part of me I've ignored. She's quiet, wounded, but not gone. She says things like, "You don't have to be productive to be loved. You are allowed to want more than stability. You can leave without it meaning you failed." I never used to hear her over the noise, but on Sundays, she finds me, and I listen. I think about the version of myself who arrived in this country with 2 suitcases and a hopeful heart. She didn't know yet that the system she'd enter would ask her to trade tenderness for reliability. She didn't know how many times she'd swallow and no to keep the peace. She didn't know how invisible a person can feel when they speak a language that's not their own. But she's still in here, somewhere between the muscle memory of pushing through and the ache of finally wanting to rest. And on Sundays, I make space for her. No noise, no doing, just being. Maybe that's where it starts. Not with a resignation letter, not with a bold new life plan, but with one quiet afternoon and the courage to sit with yourself without trying to fix everything, to look at your own face in the mirror and not flinch, to stop asking if you're doing enough and instead ask, how do I feel really? The answer comes slowly, softly, but it comes. Lonely, tired, still here. And somehow, that feels like something I can build on. The first time I said no, it wasn't dramatic. There was no yelling, no slam doors, no email with a final flourish of kind regards, but never again. It was just a simple message. A meeting request I declined, politely but firmly. I won't be available at that time. Please proceed without me. And then I muted the thread. It sounds small, insignificant even, but for someone like me, someone who has learned to bend, accommodate, absorb, it was radical. For years, I said yes when I meant no. I joined every call, stayed late, came in early, took on extra work, thinking it made me valuable. And maybe it did, but it also made me disappear. Because when you always say yes, people stop asking who you really are. They just start expecting you. I didn't even realize how much of myself I was handing away until I started saying no. And the first time I did, the world didn't end. The meeting happened. The project moved forward. No one fired me. No one punished me. No one even noticed. But I noticed something shifted, like a light coming back on in a room I forgot existed. I sat there in my apartment on that same old chair with a wobbly leg, and I felt powerful, not in a loud way, not like someone on a stage, but in a grounded, quiet way, like someone who has finally come home to their own boundaries. I realized how often I had betrayed myself in the name of politeness. How many times I said yes because I was afraid of being seen as difficult, emotional, or not a team player. Especially as a foreigner. Especially as someone still hoping to belong. But here's what I'm learning now. Belonging that costs you your voice is not belonging. It's containment. And I'm done being contained. I want my life back. Not the one that looks good on paper. The one where I can breathe without guilt. The one where my presence isn't defined by my productivity. The one where I get to decide what matters. I want to speak more, even if my voice shakes, even if I forget the right German word, even if someone rolls their eyes, because silence has never protected me. It only made me disappear more slowly. Now I want to be seen, really seen, even if that means fewer meetings, fewer projects, fewer polite nods in hallways that echo with things left unsaid. I want deeper conversations, softer mornings, clearer boundaries. And I know it won't all change overnight, but maybe it starts with something as small as one honest no. Maybe that's the first step back to myself. The day I let myself enjoy something. It was a Thursday. Nothing remarkable. No milestone. No promotion. Just the day. The kind I used to drag myself through, staring at the clock between meetings, drinking coffee not for pleasure but to stay upright. But something felt different that morning. Maybe it was the light. Maybe it was me. I left the house earlier than usual, not out of obligation, but curiosity. I didn't open my inbox, didn't check messages, didn't carry the weight of expectation into the day like I normally did. Instead, I walked to a cafe I'd passed 100 times and never entered. The windows were foggy with breath and warmth. Inside, it smelled like real coffee and baked apples. And I let myself sit down. No laptop, no call to rush to. Just me, a table by the window, and the sound of two strangers talking in low, familiar German. The kind you speak when you're not performing, just being. I ordered a slice of cake, just because, and when it arrived, I ate it slowly. No guilt, no compensation plan, no inner voice calculating how many steps I'd need to take later to earn it. Just taste, texture, pleasure, and it hit me hard and quiet. I've forgotten how to enjoy things. Somewhere along the line, I replaced joy with efficiency, rest with guilt, pleasure with performance. Even good things had to be productive. Even breaks were justified by how hard I'd worked beforehand. But this moment, this sweet, soft, undeserved moment, it was a rebellion. Because healing isn't just about tending to wounds. It's about remembering that you're allowed to feel good. You're allowed to want beauty. You're allowed to choose delight. Even if the world is still hard, even if the job is still there, even if nothing has officially changed, joy doesn't need permission. It only needs space. And so I gave it some. I let the sunlight touch my hands. Let the cake be sweet. Let the silence be kind. Let the moment matter, not because I earned it, but because I exist. And when I left that cafe, I didn't walk faster to make up for the time I'd spent. I walked slower, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't running from anything. And maybe, just maybe, I was walking towards something. The life I'm learning to repeat. It's strange how quickly we forget that we're allowed to choose. For so long, I thought life was something you survived, that jobs were meant to drain you, that adulthood meant putting joy on the shelf until vacation, and even then, only if your inbox agreed. But that morning in the cafe, that one slice of cake, that one slow walk, it did something to me. And so I did it again. Not the exact same thing, not the same place, but the same rhythm. I paused. I noticed. I chose softness again. And I started realizing something. Healing isn't a single decision. It's not a dramatic moment or a perfect plan. It's a quiet practice, repeated often, especially when no one's watching. It's what you do when the default path is calling. But something inside you whispers, no, not today, not like that. So I began creating new defaults, slow ones, kind ones, like taking my lunch break outside instead of at my desk, even if I have to reheat the food later, like answering emails in a tone that sounds like me, not a machine, like texting a friend just to say, I miss you, without needing a reason or apology. Small things. Things you might miss if you're still in the loop of more, faster, better. But for me, they're everything. Because the burnout didn't come from one explosion. It came from 1,000 quiet abandonments of myself. One skipped meal. One silence feeling. One yes too many. And now, I'm coming back to myself in the same way. Not all at once, but choice by choice. Some days it's easier. Some days I still fall back into the old rhythm. Eyes glaze over in a Zoom call. Heart clenched at the sound of another calendar ping. And that's okay, because this isn't a performance. It's a return, and all returns take time. Sometimes I still hear that voice, the one that says, you're being selfish. You're not working hard enough. You should be grateful. Other people have it worse. And to that voice, I'm learning to say, I know, but I'm still allowed to want peace. I'm still allowed to build a life that doesn't make me disappear. Because I didn't come all this way, across oceans, through heartbreak, into burnout, just to live like I don't exist. I want to wake up and recognize myself. I want to see joy in my own reflection. I want to belong to my own life, not just function inside it. And if that means slowing down, saying no, being misunderstood, then so be it, because repetition makes reality. And I'd rather repeat peace than recreate pain. So I'll keep choosing softness. Not once, not perfectly, but over and over and over again. Until this life, this quiet, human, honest life, feels like home. I am no longer waiting. There's a moment on the tram ride home, every evening, where the city moves slower, the buildings blur, the sky turns a kind of pink that makes you forget how long winter was. And the people are quiet, soft for the end of the day. That's where it hit me. I'm no longer waiting. Not for the perfect job. Not for the perfect words in the second language. Not for someone to understand me without me having to explain. Not even for happiness. At least not the kind I use to chase like a moving train I could never catch. I'm here, now, an imperfect, ordinary, achingly human now. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. There's still tension in my shoulders from years of bracing for disappointment. There are still scars from overextending. Still parts of me that flinch at kindness, unsure if it's safe to receive it. But there's also breath, depth, a stillness that wasn't there before. I've stopped measuring my life by output. Stopped trying to shrink myself into professionalism. Stopped apologizing for being tired, sensitive, slow, or honest. Because this version of me, the one who sits by cafe windows, the one who walks just to feel her feet touch the ground, the one who says no, not out of resistance, but out of care, she is the real one, not the title, not the polished CV, not the smile that came too quickly. This one, the one with laugh lines and under-eye shadows, and a heart that still believes in beauty after all this time. I came to Germany searching for a life, and what I found, through burnout, through loneliness, through the kind of silence that aches, was myself, not the perfect version, but the one who wants to live honestly. And maybe that's all I ever needed. So I step off the tram, the sky fading behind me, my keys cold in my hand, and I whisper, not to the world, but to the part of me that stayed hidden too long. You can come out now. You don't have to wait anymore. The day didn't ask for me, but I showed up anyway. And that is the beginning of everything.